You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Hey, this is Eddie.
And this is Miguel.
And thank you for joining us again in a new episode of the God Life Culture Podcast.
Yes, welcome back to another episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. We are so excited that you are tuned in, that you are connected, and that you are ready to join us for this brand new episode. We just want to say from the beginning, if you are not subscribed, we want you to subscribe to our podcast and be sure to leave us a review. Again, those reviews help us reach more people, right? And it puts us out in front of more people. We are so excited to be here with another episode. Last week, you guys really enjoyed that episode, and we're just so excited to be back. Today was a weird day here in New York. They were announcing snow, and it snowed just a little bit, and then it stopped snowing, and then it snowed again. It was flurries. It was just a weird day for the weather here in New York. I think we expected a little more snow, but it didn't happen today. Eddie, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, and I actually appreciate when it snows that way because it gives you all the beauty of the snow falling down without the mess of snow and all that muck for a couple of days. On my way here today, I had the most randomest memory pop into my mind again. And sometimes you have these experiences in life that kind of either ground you or just make you take a double step. And I was remembering a couple of years ago, we do yearly youth camps. And a couple of years ago, I was on one of the buses. And, you know, as one of the camp leaders, all the other stuff, we also have outside churches that send their youth to our camps as well. And there was a young person on the bus who had a question and called me sir. And I was like, that was the first time anyone had called me sir. And at the time that happened, I was 25, 26, and he made me feel 100 years old. And I was like, man, I don't think I'm old, and I don't operate in life as someone, you know, I'm 32 at the moment, but I still act young and I feel young. But it was like one of those moments that like brings you back to reality of you're not a teenager anymore, and people don't look at you that way.
Yeah, I mean, that moment is definitely a moment where you're just like, man, you know, for me, it happens in school oftentimes. I'm a teacher. So I'm used to the, you know, Mr. Pagan and the Mr., in front of my name. But, you know, sometimes when I reference certain movies or if I reference certain TV shows that I watched growing up as a kid, they look at me like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Or I think my parents mentioned that before. And it just really, it does make you feel like, man, am I like really that far, you know, ahead in life? Like, you know, am I that, you know, much older than each and every one of you? So it's definitely a feeling that you have to just process and, you know, come to accept.
Yeah, come to accept and keep it moving.
For sure. Last week, we had a special guest with us, and you all enjoyed that episode. And this week, we have another great guest with us. We are so excited to introduce to our podcast this next guest, and we're going to just have him come on, and this is going to be a great conversation. So please welcome to the God Life Culture Podcast our next special guest, Tanner Olson. Ooh. Tanner, can you please say hello to each of our listeners?
Hello, every single listener, Mr. Miguel, Sir Eddie. It is a joy to be with you all today.
Yes, thank you again for coming on and being a part of this episode. I mean, we're just really looking forward to this conversation. And, you know, for all of our listeners who are listening and tuning in and hearing you for the first time, right? Can you please tell us, who is Tanner Olson?
Wow, we're going to go straight into it, aren't we? My name is Tanner. I am an author, a poet, and a speaker, and I live in Nashville, Tennessee, with my wife and our dog Pancake. I've been writing poetry for the last 8 years or so, and pre-pandemic, I was able to do a little bit of touring. I would speak at churches and schools, youth groups and organizations, and share poetry and tell stories. And I loved it. And so now I'm doing a lot of podcasts. I'm Zooming with a lot of classes, sharing poetry, talking about poetry, encouraging kids and students and people of all ages really just just to write. Most of my day is spent doing things on the internet, and yeah, that's really about it. That's me.
That's a great.
That's
That is
yeah.
you. That's a
It,
great intro to our people that are first time listening to you and your voice, and now going to be introduced to your work. You know, as you made a little joke also, and we were speaking about at the top of the hour, the whole idea of the sir and the mister. Have you had that experience yet of like being like brought to reality of, man, I'm not a teenager anymore, and how that feels, and you know that whole experience.
I think like every time I try to walk upstairs, I'm hit with the reality that I'm no longer a teenager. But going into when I get to speak at schools, I'll go there and they'll refer to me as, you know, Mr. Tanner, or they'll call me sir. And I'm like I'm quick to say, hey, it's just Tanner. I know you're trying to be respectful, and I appreciate that, but your respect is not welcomed here because that makes me feel old. And I'll be honest, I don't need more of that in my life. I'm trying to go back down, not trying to go up. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, no, that's happened. It happens more than it should. But I guess I'm old now. Like you, man. I'm 30. I'm gonna be 32 later this year. So
We're not
no,
old. We're just starting the tip of our prime. We're young.
no, we're
Yeah,
old.
I mean, I haven't hit 30 yet. I haven't hit 30 yet. I still have like about 3 more years left, so I'm not there yet.
Cool brag, Miguel. Cool brag.
Yeah. On your Instagram, Tanner, I mean, your Instagram is so unique. And that's actually how I came across, your artistry and your craft. One of my friends on Instagram had posted this picture, and I loved what it said. And I just found it so unique. And it was like a handwritten note. You were holding the paper, and it was a phrase that was written on there, and I saw written to speak. I clicked on it, and I came across just this page of handwritten quotes and encouraging notes, sayings, and reflections. And that was, I remember, my first introduction to your artistry. How did you decide that was what you wanted to use your Instagram platform for?
Yeah, Instagram, well, just the internet in general, it's just this really, it's a weird place. Um, and I mean, I've kind of come into this under the impression that the internet is just one big game, and most of us are just losing. And I truly just wanted to offer something hopeful and something honest. And I'm not a singer, I'm not a songwriter. I'm just a writer, and I'm not great with graphic design. I'm not going to doodle something like that's just not how I work or I operate. But I love words, and I love how words can move us and change us and shift us. And so what I seek out to do just on that corner of the internet is just to write down something hopeful, something honest that others can connect with, that others can nod their head with, and that they can just kind of tuck in their back pocket for the rest of the day. And so I just enjoy writing down little pieces of paper, and then when I go out, I'll stick them places, or I'll add them to orders, or whatever it may be. But I've just found something beautiful about something that's handwritten and something that's
Yeah.
honest, and it truly just kind of reminds me of maybe a simpler time
Mhm.
before the internet. And so that's just kind of what I like to offer in that area of the internet. Yeah.
And I think, I'm old fashioned also when it comes to like even like reading books. I don't like to
Hmm.
read on a tablet. I don't like to read on a PDF file. I love books. I like that, like you said, maybe that old fashionedness of it. But there is something about it that makes it more personable. And I
Hmm.
think that also with your post, even though it's an electronic post, being that it is handwritten, it makes it more personable to people. When I listen to your work, and I mean this in the most best compliment way.
I'm
Um,
nervous.
no, no. I feel like your work is like a roller coaster. It's not monotone. You go in and out of very serious topics while throwing in humor. It was like on my way here, I've been listening to your stuff on loop. And I think it was in a track that is Listen Up. You go from speaking about the lint in your belly button to reading the suicide note from your friend who just gave it to you.
Hmm.
Do you feel that is, your style of writing is also a reflection of how you talk to normal people? Not normal people, but like on an everyday life.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I think that probably will shine through a little bit, really, in our conversation here. I love making jokes. I was a class clown And for most of my childhood, most of growing up, I had to convince people that there was this serious side of me, that I could go deeper, that it wasn't just jokes and it wasn't just me saying things that I honestly probably shouldn't have said. But that's now kind of come out in my writing as well, because I want my writing and I want my work to feel as though we're friends, or as though you can relate to it. And I'm not somebody who's going to be serious 100% of the time, and I'm not going to joke around for 100% of the time. But I'm going to offer you a little bit of both. And I think that in my work and in my poetry, what I want to do is I want to make you smile. I want to make you laugh. I want to make you cry. And I also want to make you think. And I think that
Yeah.
if I'm able to do that, then that just kind of adds a different element to it as well. Now I love artists who are just straight serious. But have you ever listened to somebody for a long time and then you finally got to meet them and it didn't really match up? You're like, wait, who are you? You're like two different people. And when
Yeah.
people meet me, I want them to be like, oh, I can see how this plays into his work as well. Like I don't put on a work hat. I just bring myself to work.
Yeah. And another thing that I pick up from your work as well is a feeling of nostalgia. I
Yeah.
don't know why. I mean, maybe it is intentional in what you do, but like when you speak about certain subjects and you speak about certain things, and like you said, you make people think, but it kind of brings me back to a different time, and brings me to think of, an experience that's very similar to something that you're speaking about. Do you feel that that's intentional? Like, do you do that on purpose, or it's just like a therapeutic process for you where you just like write about stuff that are experiences from the past for you?
I can't help but write about those experiences. That's just kind of what comes out when I write. And I'm somebody who I often think about the past, whether it's for the good, whether it's for the bad. But I find myself kind of replaying those moments and those memories that mean something to me, and even the ones that I wish that I could change as well. And I don't think I'm the only one who does that. And so as I'm writing, it's often, I'm drawing on experiences, and I haven't had any future experiences yet. I've only had the past one, so I can only draw off of those.
Yeah.
Right. So I find myself just writing about those. And I think that's when people begin to nod their head because they've had something similar as well. And I want to write things that are unique to myself, but I want people to hear them and to be able to put themselves in the stories that I'm sharing, or in the work that I'm putting out. Because those are my favorite kind of movies. It's like the nostalgic ones that I can get behind, that I can quote every line, and that seem to just like get me. And I want my work to get the people who listen to it. I want them to see themselves in it as well, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. It makes perfect sense. And I think you're successful in doing that. On
Thank
your
you.
Instagram stories, you frequently post a cup of coffee with the saying, just happy to be here. You also have a podcast named Just Happy to Be Here. How did you start that? And, what do you mean by that? Is that just like a saying that you just like the sound of it? Or do you feel like, no, this is like a way of living or mantra?
Yeah, I mean, even before starting this interview, if you
Mhm.
noticed, he said, "I'm just happy to be here."
Yeah, it's true.
I truly am. I truly am just happy to be here with you guys. Yeah, it's something that I do every day, and I'm a very routine person, and I mean it shows up in my work all the time. It's honestly just kind of being consistent. Well, every day I kind of take a picture of my coffee, draw a smiley face in it, and I write, "I'm just happy to be here," and that's all started because that's the reminder that I needed that day. It
Mhm.
was, I've gone like everyone else. I've gone through these hard and difficult seasons, and there were days where it was hard to just be here, and I wasn't happy to be here. But I would write down, "Hey, I'm just happy to be here," and it gave me something to smile about. And it was that little reminder that, hey, I can go a little bit further. In a lot of my work, I wrestle with mental health, with depression, with anxiety, with a lot of things that the rest of our world is gripping or grappling with and struggling with. And I want to be honest in what I'm saying and what I'm writing. And so there are some days
Yeah.
where I am just happy to be here. And there are other days where I need to be reminded that I'm here and that here is a good place to be. And I'm going to go for another day. And so it kind of hits on a lot of different elements. Like I said,
Mhm.
it kind of goes back to my personality too, where people look at it like it's funny. You know how people can like react to stories on Instagram. I'll get some like every day. It'll be somebody who sends me like the crying emoji face. Like that's really
Mhm.
funny.
Wow.
And there's other ones where some people will like swipe up with a heart. And it's like,
Yeah.
so I kind of understand where other people are coming from when they see that. And I one time got a
And
message. Oh,
oh no, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I got a message one time from somebody who said, I don't, I didn't understand why you did this until I had a hard day.
Mm.
And then I was looking for it. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to keep posting that every day. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think it once again, I think it's very successful and it serves its purpose because Miguel and I, have been talking, and one of the things that when we got on this specific subject was the fact that I feel like it's open ended and
Hmm.
just happy to be here. Dot dot dot. So
Hmm.
that dot 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 could be filled in by even though I had a horrible day, even
Yeah.
though I missed my alarm this morning, even
Hmm.
though I'm out of coffee and didn't realize it. And it's something that everyone can fill in that blank and reflect on. But at the end of the day, the message is just happy to be here.
Yeah.
For
And just,
sure.
it's a reminder that you are here and you're alive to live. And although things are heavy and things are difficult, especially right now, hey, we're still here and let's
Yeah,
keep going. So yeah. Hey, thanks for picking up on that. That's cool. Yeah. Okay. I've got
For sure.
sometimes you know how you do things and you're like, I wonder if anybody is getting this. Um, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And I'm glad you did.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I can definitely relate to that idea of putting out work. I myself, and this is something that I love because when I came across your Instagram page and saw your work and saw what you do, I myself do spoken word as well, and I do it in a completely different style, in a
Yeah.
completely different way, but at the same time, seeing your work and just seeing someone else, work hard and use their creativity in a different way and still be amazing and still be so impactful. It's something for me that's definitely refreshing to see. This idea of other creatives using their gifts and using their talents and abilities. And although it kind of falls under the same category of spoken
Hmm.
word and poetry, we all do it so differently, yet the mission is the same.
Hmm.
And something in looking at your website, that I loved is, you have this quote on your homepage. And normally they say, in marketing and branding, your homepage, that's where everyone sees that you want to put your message out there and you want to put like kind of everything on that one page, right? And you
Uh-huh.
have, I am nothing like Shakespeare or Dr. Seuss. I'm just Tanner.
Yeah, that's
And,
me.
just reading that definitely, I mean, spoke to me because as creatives, we can sometimes fall into this comparison trap where
Hmm.
we are constantly, comparing ourselves to other people, comparing our skills, comparing, our resources or the way we use our craft and the way we do what we do. It's so easy to look at what someone else is doing and feel like you're either not doing enough or you're not doing it the way that people expect, or maybe I can sound like that person, or maybe I can write like this person, or my Instagram doesn't have an aesthetic, right? There's so many different things that we can fall into. Can you speak a little bit about that comparison trap
Hmm.
that sometimes creatives fall into?
Yeah, well, and it's what I said earlier too, right? Like the internet is one big game, and we're all just losing because that's where comparison kind of plays into that. I can remember, and I mean, Instagram is it's a great place to spread hope. It's a great place to announce love, but it's also a great place to get lost in your own self. And I mean, there for a while, and I think every artist kind of goes through this. Is like you just want to have a big following. You want to have people who know your work or who respect your work. You want to have people that you can connect with. And for me, it just kind of got to a place where I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do my own thing. I've seen what everybody else is doing, and that doesn't sit well with me. That doesn't jive well with me. So I'm just gonna do the best that I can with what I know how to do, and I'm gonna stop trying to serve the people who aren't following me, and I'm just gonna try to serve the people who are following me and to connect with them and to get to know them. And comparison is just this huge trap. But we don't need you to be like anybody else. Like we need you just to be you. It doesn't matter if you have 10 followers or 10 million followers. Like if you're going to put out art, like put it out and give it all you've got. And I don't want to put out work that I'm not proud of. I don't want to put out work just to put something out. Like I want to put something out because I believe in it and I want it to mean something for somebody else as well. Now it is difficult when you see other people doing things that you're doing and having more success at it. That's it's really hard. It's hard to watch that. Um, but there's also a lesson in there somewhere. Now, I don't know what that lesson is right now, but like there's something in there for you to pull out and learn from, or like an opportunity for you to really to check yourself. Now it is interesting. I mean, you say you do spoken word, and I do spoken word as well. And you said we do it differently, and I think that's really good. I'd love to share the stage with you one day because I think that would make it so much better if we do things differently. When I first started getting into poetry, I would listen to people like Propaganda, like Levi the Poet, a lot of different artists, right? And now Amanda Gorman. I don't know if you guys saw her poem on Inauguration Day, but
In the
she,
Yes,
inauguration.
yes.
Amazing.
ooh, is she on your list to have on the podcast? Because good luck.
For sure. I mean, listen,
Yeah, I know.
her messages and her emails are probably being,
Inundated.
flooded right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
She
that was an amazing moment.
that was a good moment for well, I would say it was a good moment for spoken word. It didn't make any of us
Yes.
look good though, because she just crushed it.
Right.
And I'm thankful for that. But like that's one of those opportunities. And as she was speaking, as she was sharing, there was two things going on deep down inside. Number one, oh my goodness, she's amazing. I cannot wait to see what happens to her next. And the other thing that I had to quickly move on from was, well, that could have been me. First of all, it definitely could not have been me. Second of all, it should not have been me. Third of all, I'm so glad that it was her. But right there's that wrestling, that comparison that comes in, and acknowledge it and then move on from it and get back to work. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited for her. I don't even know her, and I'm so proud of
I
what she
know.
has
And
done.
I think it's
Yeah.
great for poetry, right? I mean,
Oh,
to,
yeah.
to be included, right, in such a historic moment, a historic event, right? And I think
Mhm.
just looking at poetry in that field and spoken word, I think especially within the church, right? And we say Christian spoken word or Christian poetry, we have definitely come a long way. Right.
Mhm.
And again, it's like you said, moments like that, should be a moment where we rejoice and where we really acknowledge, like, man, that was an amazing moment. And
Mhm.
also acknowledge, right, like you said, the idea of that comparison trap, right, where it's like, okay, wait a minute, I feel all of these things, but I know, that again, what I have is also special. What I have is unique, right? And
Mhm.
that was her platform. That was her moment. And, there are moments that are designated for me. And there are moments that, I'll have where I'll be able to share that gift and be of impact. So I
Mhm.
think that's amazing to acknowledge that as well.
Yeah, and when I first started sharing poetry, and this was, I think I was 22, 23 years old. Um, when I first started, I wanted to be known as the guy who does spoken word. I wanted to be the spoken word guy. And now, really, what I want is I want to make people smile. I want to make them think, and I want to make them feel loved and seen and known, and all those things. Like I don't want it to be about me. And I think as artists, right, we kind of struggle there because we have to put ourselves out. We have to put ourselves out there, and we have to say, hey, I wrote this and I would like to share this with you. But we know deep down, like, it's not about us. It's about the mission that is written through every single piece of it. And that's what I got to keep reminding myself of time and time again, that, hey, this isn't about me, but this is about so much more. This is about for others. This is about for hope. This is about for love. And that's why I'm
Yes.
going to step up to this microphone. Um,
Yep.
and I also know that poetry is not for everybody. So, like, if you don't like it, like, all right, that's fine. Go to a concert, listen to music. I'm
Yeah.
going to do poetry because this is what I know how to do. You know?
Yeah, and that goes for everything. Even their
Exactly.
style of music that isn't for
Yep.
everyone. Genres of movies and books that not everyone is a fan of. But there is a audience for everything.
Yep.
And you are someone who has multiple albums. You have singles out as well. You've also self-published 2 books. You have I'm All Over the Place in your most recent one, As You Go. And we kind of touch on this a little bit, but the journey of becoming an author is not easy. Especially as a self-publisher, many writers and creatives work really hard at their craft and can be possessive with their resources, knowledge, tips, and tricks.
Mhm.
Now, I saw recently that you're taking the opposite approach and you're offering resources, videos, community for writers and creatives. So,
Mhm.
how does a writer and creative find the correct balance between protecting their craft or their art and uplifting and helping others?
It probably depends on the artist and what the artist's goal is. And truly like what their bank account looks like. Now, mine doesn't look too great, but I didn't get into this to make money. Sometimes people will be like, "Why are you doing poetry to get famous?" But like, no, I didn't. Like, that's not why poets do what they do. Poets do what they do because they can't help but do it. Like, I can't help but sit down and write every single day, and I'm thankful to be able to do that. But like, this is just what I'm doing. I want to offer other authors, other writers, other poets, just things that I wish that I had found earlier in my career. And it's honestly just things that I kind of stumbled upon or things that I learned. And I want to offer that to others so that they can bypass the first couple of hard steps. Although those are important, I want to kind of give them a little bit of tips and tricks that I've learned. And honestly, it might be things that they already know. They just need to be reminded of time and time again.
Yeah.
I don't want to try to hoard what I know to be true. I just want to help other people because the bottom line is I know that I'm not the best poet out there, but I think that there are better poets out there. They just don't know it yet. And they just need to pick up the pen and realize that, hey, they have this beautiful gift as well. So that's a little bit as to why I started that, and that's still a lot of work in progress. I haven't really uploaded anything yet. It's all just a bunch of notes, but depending on when this podcast releases, I'm hoping to hit it hard this week. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's amazing because, I'm sure you get messages all the time, right? Of people just asking, like, how do you do this? Or do you have any tips? Or can you read my poem? And, things like that. And sometimes, like you said, when you are starting, right, you need that little boost. You need that help. And you just need kind of someone, who you may look up to, or someone who you may feel like has it all down and they're grounded. Sometimes it's great to hear from them, from those people, and just a tip or just an encouraging word like, this is great, keep on moving. I know for me, when I first started doing spoken word, I, talking about earlier, comparing, I was always just watching videos and looking at other people and hearing other people and how they sounded and all of these things. And, I remember sending a few of my poems to them, hoping, right, that they would respond, or hoping that, they would give me some tips. And, one of the poets, his name is Ezekiel. I remember read one of my poems and offered and said, hey, maybe through Skype we can work on this together, and I can give you a few tips and just a few, ideas and methods that I use when I write. And I mean, we were on, a Skype call for just, about 30 to 40 minutes. And just till this day, I'm so thankful for that moment and for that time that, he took out of, his schedule and just of his time to, share with me and help me in that moment. And many of, the things that he shared with me, I still keep in mind today. So definitely, that feeling was amazing. And I think it's great when we're able to then, uplift others when we find ourselves in a place where, we're being asked to help, or, they're asking for advice. And, I think it's amazing what you're doing because, quite frankly, not a lot of people are willing, to give all their secrets out, right? And to share and, to do that. And, they may feel a little threatened. So I think it's definitely amazing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I'm not out here trying to make money. Obviously, I'm trying to make a living, but I would much rather there be more writers out there spreading hope and announcing love and sharing the gift that God has given them, rather than just sitting on it. And if I can help them take that first step, or if I can give them a pointer of some kind, like I'm just happy to do it. So yeah, like, and truly, like, one of my friends was like, "Is that like a marketing tactic?" And I was like, um, no, my mind doesn't think that way. Uh,
Mhm.
my mind thinks in the way of, oh, I feel like I could help somebody with this, so I'm going to do it. Also, I didn't have anything on my schedule, so I was like, I might as well do this now.
Right, right.
So it just kind of came out. But I mean, that's really the heart behind it. I want to help people, and especially right now, and where I can't get out and I can't go travel and speak at places. I think this is the best thing
Right.
I can do. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I want to ask about that. How has, everything with this pandemic and these last, these crazy months that we've been experiencing, how has that affected, your craft and you as a writer?
It's affected mostly my just my rhythm of doing things. So I had been had the schedule of touring for about 2 weeks out of a month, and then home the other 2 weeks. And so it was, setting up shows, traveling, speaking at churches and schools and organizations and coffee shops, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun. It was exhausting, but it was a lot of fun, and I truly felt like this is the thing that I was supposed to be doing. Again and again, I say, the reason I do what I do is to spread hope and to announce love, and that's the way that I really felt like that I was doing that, or I was living out that mission. And then the pandemic hit, and obviously wasn't able to go anywhere, and so I had to. I panicked for a little bit, and then I was like, all right, you have to shift a little bit. You have to pivot. And I was like, well, now I'm just going to write. I'm going to write as much as I can. And I'm going to try to narrate basically this pandemic. And so for the first couple of months, I just kind of came out with pandemic-like poems, and writings kind of around the topic of, making it through another day to see tomorrow, stuff like that. And then for the last couple of months, I've been able to Zoom with schools, with churches, been able to deliver some messages and some stories to other organizations. And so by the grace of God, I'm still able to do what I'm doing. Now I also have a Patreon, and I have a bunch of people in my corner there, which I'm super thankful for. And I have an online store as well that really helps. But, as an artist, as a poet, you can't just be a poet. You have to do, an assortment of other things in order to be able to do the one thing that you really love to do. And the one thing that I really love to do is I love to Zoom with classes and share poetry with kids, and to hear their questions and to hear their poems as well, and to try to encourage them. But if you're wondering, does that pay the bills? No, it does not. If you're wondering, I feel like you already knew the answer.
Right.
But it's been able to open up opportunities to do some other things as well. So, the pandemic has been, it's been just that. It's been a pandemic. But thankfully, we've been able to make it and to make some changes. And even in the middle of the pandemic, I came out with a book. We pushed that up because, it's a self-published book. So I really was able to get it out whenever. So, me and my friend James, who did all the designs and the layout for it, he was able to crank it out and get it out when we did. And I think it was the right time. And that was really exciting. And to be able to share that over Zoom with some people, and it's been really sweet. Truly, I'm thankful. If you can call yourself an artist and make a living, you have no choice but to be thankful constantly.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because like you said earlier before, it's not easy. And I mentioned before, I'm all over the place. You also just spoke about As You Go, your book, and you're a self-publisher. So first thing is, can you explain that to someone who has no idea what that means? And then number two, why did you decide to go down that route?
Yeah, so actually, for my first book, my friends they came out with a publishing company called Sword and Swan, and so I was able to put that one out with them, and they were a huge help for that. But then for the second book, I wanted to see if I could do it on my own, and to kind of learn the ins and outs of self-publishing. And I'll be honest, if you have a friend who's an editor, and if you have a friend who's a graphic designer, and if you are a writer, you're able to put out a book. We're living in 2021, friends. You can do a lot of things with a computer. And so, it was certainly a lot of work. It was scary. But I spent a lot of time talking to other publishing authors, and learn from them. And this is all stuff that I'll share on my website, hopefully in the future, about how to self-publish. But I learned, a great deal about the process. And as a touring poet, like I just wanted to have books in my house that I could just grab with me before I left, and not have to order them through my publisher to have them shipped here. So if you're thinking about publishing or self-publishing a book, I can't recommend it enough. Now, it is a lot of work. It is terrifying. You're going to second guess your entire existence time and time again, but it's worth it. And to be able to hold something that you worked on for such a long time, and then to be able to hand it to a friend, it's a sweet thing.
For sure. I mean, I as well have I self-published a poetry book a few years back. Just kind of the backstories to some spoken word poems that I had released,
Mhm.
with music and all of that. And that journey is definitely not easy, but there's definitely it's definitely rewarding, right? When you see,
Mhm.
books in hands. And I've heard this quote said many times that God puts books in hands.
Mhm.
And sometimes we as creatives, we work hard and we try to, we do the branding and we try to get marketing and we try to do all of these things. We send all the emails out and all of those things that we know we have to do, right, to work and push a book or push a project. But at the end, we know that God is ultimately the one who puts those books in people's hands. He's the one that definitely makes a way for you to reach those people that you probably never thought that you would reach. And
Mhm.
I think that's definitely comforting. Is it hard? Absolutely. As you were talking, I was just, I was starting to feel tired, right, for you,
Yeah.
in the sense that it is hard work, right?
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to put in that work. It
Yeah.
won't come easy. And a lot of times, you're out of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Are you currently right now in Nashville?
Yeah. Yep. We're
Yeah,
in
because
Nashville.
I know you had shared recently on a podcast on your transition to moving, to Nashville,
Mhm.
and I know, life, picking up and just taking everything that you own and just moving to a new state or a new city, that is scary, and
Yeah.
I think many times, you know, uh, we kind of face moments where it's like, oh, a new job or, a new home or, a move like that where you move to a new state. And it could be scary sometimes. I mean, what advice can you give to those who feel like they're in a transition moment, right? Where God has taken them from one place to another, from one season to a new season. And, it could look scary. What advice do you have for that?
Just the advice that I feel like I give for almost almost every situation is just you got to give it time. You got to give it time. We moved from Austin, Texas, to Nashville, and truthfully, it felt like I was planted in Austin, and I got uprooted, and then I got planted again in Nashville, and it takes time to get adjusted, right? It takes time to let those roots, get to know the dirt and to continue to dig deep. So I think for those people who are going through a transition, you got to give it time, and it's not going to be easy. Sometimes I think like, oh, if I just move here, it'll fix everything. Well, it's not. It's just going to create some new problems. But if you feel as though like, hey, this is where the Lord is leading me, this is where I'm supposed to go, like it'll work out. And then one of the first things that we did when we got to Nashville is we sought out community and tried to get to know some folks, which was really helpful because then a pandemic happened. So you never know when a pandemic is going to happen. So you have to get to know people as soon
Right.
as possible because you just don't know. Uh, but we were thankful to have some friends here, and yeah. So transitions are super exhausting. But like, yeah, if you just give it time, and that's the advice that I give too when it comes to writing or for people who are artists or creatives. Like you have to give it time, right? You have to give it time. You have to work to that comparison. You have to be able to find your voice, to find where it is that you belong in this world of creativity, or into the new city or place that you move to. You have to find out, really where you belong. Most things in life feel like they're pretty instantaneous or instant, but the good things in life, they just take a little while longer, and that's okay.
Awesome. I mean, I know so many people can relate to that. Just the idea of just having that patience and giving things time. It's something that we can definitely use for so many areas of our life. And earlier in the podcast, you mentioned, about your family. You mentioned you have a wife and that you have a dog named Pancake. Now, for all of our dog lovers out there, which we have a lot of listeners that we know they love their dogs, what type of dog is Pancake?
Pancake is a golden doodle. We actually got him the day the pandemic started here, really in Nashville, the day that things went into lockdown. So he's been our pandemic puppy. Uh, yeah, he's a bundle. He's a lot. It's been it's
So
crazy.
pandemic, and in the midst of that, new puppy as well.
Yeah, yeah. We decided to try to do everything at one time.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah. Why not? Right? Add something else
Yeah.
on. But yeah, he's a great dog, and I mean, I don't get a lot of work done with him when he's around. He tends to be quite needy, but I think he would probably say the same thing about me. So he's like, you always need me. I'm like, oh, fine, whatever.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
no, it's been fun, man. So yeah,
Awesome.
I would love to take Pancake on tour one day. We do pancakes and poetry, but I don't know if that's going to play out,
Nice.
but we'll see. Yeah, now that
Right,
we
right.
now we did get the dog. That was a marketing tactic. I will say that. It was all, just I needed, yeah. I'm kidding.
Yeah. So if in the next book Pancake is on the cover, then we definitely know it was a marketing tactic.
100%. I need this book to sell. Yeah. Put a dog on it. Yeah.
It's funny
Yeah.
because I had gotten my sister a dog, and we got it from this place. We adopted a Shih Tzu, baby, newborn Shih Tzu, and I don't know if to call it a mistake, but I went about with the mentality of going for the one that looked like it was having the most fun. So there was a
Oh,
couple of them that were like by themselves, or they were like sleeping. No, I went for the one that was like very happy to see me, and that's how we got. His name is Mr. G, actually. And
yeah.
Mr. G is the type of dog that is not needy, but very like when you come in through the door, he's jumping on you. He's jumping on everyone, like a super excited and full of energy dog. That sometimes I was like, man, maybe I should have went for the one that was sleeping.
No. You picked the right one.
Now, before we get to our last question, Tanner, I want you to tell everyone where can they find you on social media.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you just type in "written to speak," everything I should pop up. If I don't pop up, you probably found the wrong person. But yeah, just on Instagram, it's "written to speak," and then Facebook and Twitter as well. I think those are the only places I really do stuff. Yeah.
And when it comes to creatives and like writers and music people, whoever, they're always working on something. Sometimes they can share what they're working on, sometimes they cannot. Is there anything that our public can like be looking forward to seeing from you in the next coming months
That is one
that
of
you
my
can share with us?
Oh, for sure. I'd tell you whatever. That's one of my biggest pet peeves, though, when people are like, "Got something coming your way." To be honest, I actually just posted that on the internet, but but it's like got a big secret, can't tell you just yet. It's like you can 100% tell us. You're just not going.
Right.
I've got a couple of things that I'm working on. We're actually re-releasing my first book with an extended edition, so there's a couple of new poems in it, and then an epilogue as well. So that'll be out. We don't have a date for it, but it'll be out whenever this podcast comes out. A little bit after that, I can pretty much guarantee it. And then yeah, I'm working on a bunch of stuff for writers and creatives, and then we're also in the process of trying to put together a nonprofit.
Nice.
And that's really what I'm focusing on right now is putting this nonprofit together. And do I know what I'm doing? No, not a chance, but I'm going to figure it out. It's like a theme of my life. It seems like, where it's like, I really want to do this thing, but I don't know how to do it. We're going to do it anyways.
Right.
So the nonprofit essentially is we're going to try to get journals with prompts into the hands of middle school students to help them really write through the things that they're dealing with, maybe the questions that they have, the dreams that they have, or the things that they're wrestling with inside. So we want to get more kids writing with a pen or a pencil. So those are a couple of things that I'm working on, and trying to figure out how can I better market my dog. That's really I'm racking my brain.
Right. And now for our last question. I mean, this podcast is called the God Life Culture Podcast. So for this final question, and you can answer it in just about 30 seconds, however you want to do it. Doesn't have to be too long. But how is God using your craft to impact your own life and the culture around you?
It's a great question. As a writer, I get to take what's happening on the inside, and a lot of that is questions. A lot of those are prayers, and I get to put them on a piece of paper, and I get to share them with other people, and they get to either wrestle with those things, pray those words, or whatever it may be. And so I'm really thankful that I get to take time every day and just put words down on a piece of paper that allow me to reflect, connect, and spend time with the Lord. Because if I don't do that, it's really hard to make it through the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So I think that's my current answer, but it might change tomorrow.
Well, Tanner, we just want to say thank you so much for joining us, for, being very encouraging, being honest, transparent, and definitely, it was an honor to have you on our podcast.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe you can, I don't know if you're allergic to cats or birds. Maybe you need to get another pet, name him Syrup, and that can be like the continuation to the pancake saga with this
I like
marketing ploy.
Yeah.
But we do want to thank you, and it's been a pleasure and a joy to speak with you. Everyone that is listening can find Tanner as Written to Speak on all social media platforms. You can also find him on Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you use to listen to music. Find his tracks there, download them, buy them, listen to them. Go to his page, follow him, and like him as well. So thank you for joining us in the God Life Culture podcast.
Yes, and you can definitely follow our podcast and subscribe. Find us on Instagram, Facebook at God Life Culture Podcast. And when you subscribe, you will be notified when we drop a new episode.
So thank you once again. This is the God Life Culture Podcast. That's
God Life Culture.
Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.